This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. My name is Damon. We're looking for lions. Welcome to this live safari. Welcome back. Hello again. My name is Damon. Behind the camera this morning we've got Marcel, and as I said, we are on the lookout for lions this morning. So we've come to this open grassland and we're going to scan to see if we can spot them. This is where Djuma left them last night. While I look around, just a reminder that the first 45 minutes of today's drive is dedicated to all the little kiddies out there. So kiddies or parents, if you've got any questions, please email them to us at kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. Right, while I use my binoculars, I'm going to let Marcel zoom in for you, and we're going to scan together and see if we can find any signs of these lions. I can see some zebra out in the distance. On the far right, Marcel. Let me just get out of the frame. Now, last night when Djuma left these lions, he had said that they apparently looked quite hungry, and they were lying out in this open grassy plain that's full of grazing animals that have come here for all the grass, so things like wildebeest and zebra. And we had a little bit of rain last night, so that's why I wanted to come back to this area, because often with the rain, imagine if you're sitting there out in the bush and it's dark and you're listening out for any sounds of potential danger, and suddenly the rain starts to fall. There's a lot of noise, and it can be very difficult to hear the approach of a predator, like a lion stalking you. And often big cats like lions and other predators will hunt during rainstorms because of that added bit of cover they get in terms of the sound. Okay, we're going to carry on scanning and looking around, see if we can find some sign of where these lions have gone. In the meantime, though, we'll send you across to Tswalu, who has found some wildebeest.
Ooh, some lions would love a wildebeest. In fact, our lions would be awesome to see. It's a chilly-ish day out here on Djuma. That's because it's been actually raining a little bit. It's about 11 degrees Celsius, or 52 degrees Fahrenheit. And you can see that these guys are actually huddling together quite a bit. Now, of course, they've walked out. They were in such a nice little wildebeest puddle when I found them, and then they knew we were going live, and then they got camera shy as usual. My name is Tswalu, and I've got Davy on camera with me this morning. Gloomy morning, hopefully no doom involved, though. Let's go a little bit forward and get another glimpse of our beautiful wildebeest. One of those mornings that smells really, really wet. You can kind of smell the vegetation, and you can smell the sand. For me, that's always been quite an exciting thing. I love the smell of wet sand, even wet cement. Sounds strange, but I do. That was a snort in my direction. It's because I made a joke earlier while we were waiting. And I asked them, why the long faces? So obviously they're not impressed and decided that they're going to snort at me. So this is typical behavior for animals in a cold kind of environment right now. It's wet. Oh, everyone needs to dig first. So they need to huddle. Humans do a similar thing. Everyone coalesces in one spot, and they try to stay as warm as possible that way, and they'll usually keep the calves in the middle of that group. Now, the one that snorted at me was the same one that started digging. There we go. Hello. And he is either coming back from being territorial. Males are territorial during the breeding season. And they are staring in that direction. So let us go and check it out. And I'm going to send you over to Taylor to say good morning. She's got an array of animals to show you.
Good morning. And well, the hyenas are very inquisitive today because they're standing right around my car. It makes me very happy because it feels like I'm coming home and all my dogs have come around to greet me. But of course, they're not dogs. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me today is Hat, and we are bringing you a live safari here from Prrivate. Hello, Hyena. I'm going to just turn it just a little bit. I don't want to move too much. These are my favorite animals in the whole world, and I'm so excited for you to all learn about these wonderful animals. They're very, very mischievous, firstly, one. Definitely one. But they've been painted in such a bad light. They really are amazing animals and so intelligent and so curious. They're always coming on over to see what is happening. That one now is going another way, though. It's maybe heard something or seen something over there, but we've still got another hyenas on this side. Look at that. And I know you're probably thinking, isn't it scary that they come all the way up to your car? No, not really. Hyenas want to hurt you. None of the animals actually want to hurt you. But they're so inquisitive, they're so intelligent, and they smell the delicious that I made this morning. The polish that I wiped onto my vehicle. Who knows what else they can smell? So they always come up to the cars and will sniff around. But it's very important that we don't let the wild animals touch them. We need to have boundaries with them. So yesterday when I was sitting here in the afternoon, because we're basically where the lions have killed the buffalo, so they've been eating some delicious food for the last few days, and the hyenas are waiting for their chance to go and chase the lions off just yet. But I've noticed that quite a few of these hyenas were actually males, were boys. So that's interesting. This one's got a very interesting pattern going on his back. Or she. I think this male. So please remember to shout there's a whole bunch of us, and you haven't met yet, and his name is Steve.
Good morning, boys and girls. Welcome to my vehicle. My name is indeed Steve, joined by PK on camera. And well, you might see we've got a roof over here. It was raining just now, but look what we found. Just bumped into a small herd of elephants. Welcome to the show. It is a very overcast and was a drizzly start to the morning. There is something wrong with the camera currently. Sorry about that. It seems to have recovered itself. Camera has got a mind of its own. Now, the rain has been sort of spitting down for some time, and then it fell a little bit heavier in the last little hour or half hour. So what's very interesting about rain is that if you know when it fell, you can actually, there's some more elephants on the right, BK, if it's any better. Sorry about the pole, we got the roof on to protect us from the rain, which has not gone away. But what's really nice about rain on the ground is that when an animal walks, they disturb that ground and it shows you freshness. So rain on top of tracks indicates that the animals were walking there before the rain, and tracks on top of rain indicate very, fish. So I'm just going to go check the west. We worked quite hard yesterday afternoon to figure out where the lions got to. Just going to check the west, see if they've come in, do a little bit of a check around some of the watering holes on Simbumbili. And then we'll take it from there. Look at these two little ones. Little ones just stopped for a little bit of a toilet break. There we go. Wanted his cousin to wait for him. Don't leave me behind. Oh, not sure he's got it all out. Really having to concentrate there. Mikey, yes, most elephants have got tusks. They start growing after the first 2 years or so. But some females, specifically, are born without tusks. I don't know of too many bulls that I've seen without tusks, but it is a recessive gene. Being tuskless in a herd is something that comes through in the genetics from time to time. But by all means, tusked elephants are more common than non-tusked elephants. Very important tools of the trade. Elephant tusks, they use them for gouging into the trees for the bark. And this time of year, when all the leaves vanish, that's going to be the bark and the roots of trees that sustain elephants. Obviously, the males use them for fighting as well. You can see she's a bit wet on the back of the ears there from the little rain we had. I wouldn't even say it was a mill. It was just enough to make everything damp and give us a hard time having to put these roofs on. Basically, this kind of weather has followed the cold period. You always get a warm front following a cold period, and it's often precluded by a little bit of rain, even if it's not much, just cloudy conditions with some what we call precipitation, which is oh, it's floppy ear. This bull, we've seen him around with the herds of late. And his ear, it's obviously damaged, probably when he was younger. The cartilage in the ear, causing it to fold forward like that. And you can see where the skin is. Look how thick those veins are just underneath the surface there on the ear. That is the air conditioning system of an elephant, and that's supposed to be tucked up against the body. And when they flap them, the blood comes into the ears and it cools down. It's a very thin membrane of skin there, and enormous amounts of blood can be pumped into the ears every single minute, and that's how they cool down. But with an injured ear like that, it would definitely influence his sort of air conditioning ability. Shame, poor fella, but he still seems to be in very good condition. Just have to stand in the shade more than his friends. Taylor, age 10. You want to know how big a herd of elephants can get? Well, they're generally made up of smaller groups, but they can come together in what we call aggregations, which basically means a number of breeding herds together. And I've seen up to 300 elephants before. Basically, there's a whole lot of dominant or adult females that might know each other and that have split off along the way, because they go off in smaller groups due to the fact that food becomes less available. But at certain times of the year, they all come back together in different places, and I've seen up to 300, 200. It's really a spectacle to see. But it can be as small as 2, just a female and her calf. Average herds we get here are between sort of 7 and 15. And then they sort of join up with other herds and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. But as soon as times change, it's like everybody joining for Christmas. As soon as times change, Christmas herds split up again and go back to their own areas. And the event. Okay, we're going to go check our western boundary, see what we can find. In the meantime, over to andBeyond in Ngala. Say good morning to Sean.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Sunrise Safari here at andBeyond Ngala. You'll be with myself, Sean, and we've got OD behind the camera. There's his finger. And it looks like it's going to be a wonderful morning over here. We had a bit of a tricky start as we left. The rain came, so we had to do a quick U-turn back into the camp. And if we look that way, it's clear. Well, I mean, it's clearer. Blue skies, a little bit of sunshine, a couple clouds. But it's everything off to the other side that is very ominous looking. There, you can see it there, very dark, very scary looking. So what we're going to try to do is follow these gaps in the cloud, head off in that's a northerly direction, head off in that direction, and hope the weather holds for the entirety of the drive. But I think it's going to be quite a hard act to follow from Rowan's drive yesterday with 5 different leopards. But we're going to try. What we're going to start off by doing is heading out into the east, northeast. That's where Barney and I had the last tracks of the lions yesterday. They were up there and they were heading parallel to us right now. So I'm going to head out there, drive along our eastern boundary, hopefully see if we can find them. Because we believe it to be a pride that we haven't seen with the WildEarth crew yet. What we believe to be the Mbiri pride. Beautiful pride, lots of young males, young females. It's a very active pride. Always catching stuff, always doing stuff. So we will hopefully have a look at them. Beautiful animals. And that is our aim for the early part of the morning. but what we're going to do, we're going to continue. So this is the same road that the Ngala female was on. In fact, I actually see tracks if we're heading back that way. So if we don't find the lions, we can always loop around and have a look. But while we continue our search, what we're going to do is send you across to Taylor at the Pridelands.
And we are still sitting with the very fluffy hyenas this morning. The lions are not wanting to play nice and are hiding away in the very long grass. So we shall watch some sleepy hyenas. Ah, there is another one on its way. Hello. Sometimes you'll hear them too. They're getting quite excited. So there was a group of hyenas. There were about 5 here. Can you hear them? What are they doing? I think we might follow that hyena and go to those ones at the back. What do you think, Gert? They sound like they're doing all sorts of exciting things, so let's head on there. Got to find a way, find a little gap. So they're chatting to one another. So hyenas are very social. They are. Wow, look how many there are. Gert, let me go through this gap here for you. What's wrong? Can you see them? Okay, Gert is saying that this is fine, but there's a whole bunch of hyenas there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Probably at least 7 hyenas on this side. And then behind us, I can't even tell you how many more hyenas. But as we're watching them, I don't know if all of them are adults just yet. These look like fairly big hyenas. But earlier, there were some younger ones that weren't quite this size, so they must be over a year or so, because they weren't as big and as sort of as tall and as sort of muscular as the adults, and they were very playful. So I think that the wanderers have come out of the den to see one another, but this is great, and I'm so excited because now we're starting to see more and more clan members from the Pridelands clan all come together and be with one another. Because you'll only find that it's maybe the matriarch, which is the dominant female, and her daughters and her granddaughters and her sort of close family tree that will hang around with one another. And then the rest of them sort of will separate and go about their things. So it's not always that you see big groups of hyenas together, especially in areas like this. This one is just hiding behind the tree now. But it is moving. But when we have a kill like this and they all come and they wait. Luke, some of them do look young. I don't think they're all very, very young. There we go. That looks like an older hyena. Can you see? Just look at its face. It looks slightly sort of tired. Got a bit more character. So that's an adult hyena. A lot of the ones that we were looking at were adults. I'll show you when we get a chance which one I think are the youngsters. But there's so many. So I've seen a total of 9 adults, but today I think that there are even more here with the youngsters. So we're looking at maybe about 15 hyenas or so around this buffalo kill, this buffalo carcass. But the lions are sitting close by, and they are not going to move at all. Well, not yet. Unless they decide to go for a drink, and then it could be the hyena's chance to charge on in. But I think if they all stood together, they'd be able to chase the lions away. They're not brave enough, though. I don't think they want to risk getting hurt. So that's why they're just waiting. So there's actually 3 hyenas here now, but you can't see the other 2. They're lying in the grass. Are you going to come over and say hello? We were literally surrounded this morning, as you saw. Here we go. This one is very curious. It's going to maybe come right up to the vehicle. You can see how it keeps putting its head up. You can smell that rotting carcass. Is that just delicious? That would be like chocolate or brownies baking in the oven for Gert and I. So it's actually very difficult to tell the difference between male and female hyenas. The females are slightly larger, but, you know, with recent studies, there's not a huge size difference. So it's like looking at a zebra stallion versus a mare. The females are just a little bit more stockier and seem to have a bit more muscle tone than the boys. But there's only one real way to tell, and they're not making it easy for us today. But I'm still busy putting together an ID kit, so I hope that you are all taking nice screenshots And when I have a bit of time off and I have some hours to focus and sit, I shall start the ID process playing investigator, which is a lot of fun. But I think that we have got our work set out for us because it's a much bigger clan than we initially thought. You see, they just can't resist. They so desperately want to go on in. You know that carcass is there, and you know that there's enough of you to chase those lions off. Dib, when we're looking at all the hyenas, some of them do have nicks in their ears. I know that the Djuma hyenas, the Djuma clan, seem to be a little bit worn. Maybe it's because those hyenas are slightly older. Maybe this is a young clan. But I have seen some adults that have got very sort of torn, tattered ears and cuts and things on their faces and very worn sort of teeth. So maybe they're just not having as much conflict with one another. Whenever we've ever been to the den, I've never seen more than one adult there at a time. So I think it could be a lot of different things. I think they'd get a lot of damage done to them when they're younger because they bully one another quite a bit. You see, this one that's coming towards us looks like a youngster. This doesn't look like an adult. Now you're hiding behind the bushes, but almost an adult. But so what happens is when the female gives birth, she'll normally have 1 or 2 cubs. If there's 2 females, there'll be one that will become more dominant than the other, and they really, really bully one another, and they're quite rough. Maybe you can remember sitting with Lauren or Trishala or any of the other safari guides at Djuma and seeing them, how they tug on one another and they pull their ears, and they'll tear quite easily. But also if they're in a scrap with other hyenas or, maybe get into a fight with another predator, they can get injured. So I'm not really sure why their ears aren't tattered. You can see that's a young one. Now you can look at the size difference. Can you see that? So you can see that that's not an adult just yet. So that one is most likely maybe almost a year old or just over a year old. Going to lay down nicely now. There's so many here. I just can't wait until they all get the chance to feed on the carcass, because when they do, then we'll really be able to count how many there are. So I actually really want the lions, all 3 of them, to go for a drink and just leave the carcass exposed. Eventually the lions will have had their fair share and they'll move on off and they'll leave it to the vultures, which are also starting to arrive and settling up in trees. There was even a batelier, which is a beautiful eagle that flew overhead earlier. So it's going to sit up hoping to get some scraps as well. There was a black-backed jackal running around here too. We actually heard one calling yesterday morning. So it's all very exciting. There's so many different types of animals that have come around, ones that we don't always get to see. I don't think we're going to go anywhere, though. I'm going to sit and see what happens with the scene this morning. Steve is also enjoying himself on safari, but he's got a herd of elephants.
So we're just sitting it out and waiting. And for all the South Africans out there, happy Youth Day to you. It's a public holiday in South Africa today, June 16th. Happy Youth Day. There's a lot of youths in this herd, all learning the tricks of the trade from the adult elephants. We left that first group and we came around the corner and we found a group of about 5 or 6 in the road doing some dust bathing. The rain started again and now it's gone again, and elephants absolutely love the rainfall. They get very excited in the wet. And the one animal I think that really enjoys it. But unfortunately, all we've got at the moment is a shot of their bottom on the right. Hello, little youngster. A little teenager. You see the really little one. up until like 3 or 4. They are inseparable from mum. They hang right next to her learning. And then the older ones like these are too cool to be right next to mum, but they're still close. And still very, very observant. Still under the protection. And as they get to their teenage years, they become too cool for school, and then they get pushed away if they're male. Females will actually start breeding quite young and contributing to the population. Isn't that amazing? There's 2 elephants right there, and they just vanish in the wilderness. And that's why when we talk about when's the best time of year to come to the bush, it's generally in the winter months when all the leaves have fallen off the trees. But you can clearly see right now, being nearly the middle of winter, that we've had a bumper year when it comes to rainfall. And so the water table is still very high. And so the trees have still got all of their leaves. You might hear that whistling sound behind us. It's an African grey hornbill. That was my rendition. It wasn't a very good one. So this time of year, they're still grazing a little bit. Elephants will stick their heads into a bush like that. You can see where the tree's growing. And there'll be some underneath that hasn't yet been accessed. Still some greenery to it. And the tree against being eaten by animals with long faces. But they've got no chance against an animal with an extremely long and selective nose. How far into the bush the elephant can eat. Pick on whenever it wants. The African elephant has got 2 fingers at the end of the trunk. Whereas Indian elephant, let me move up. We'll be able to see the feeding happening just on the side of this bush. The Indian elephant, with smaller ears, has got 1 finger. What the purpose of 1 versus 2 is, I really couldn't tell you. I'm sure there must be some reason. But the evolution of man and ape has done so well because of the opposable thumb, the ability to have a thumb, a hand that can grip. Elephant has got a trunk that can do, there we go, you see the 2 fingers? Trunk that can do absolutely everything. It can pick up fruits, selectively graze, wrap the trunk around grass, break branches, use the tusks to snap branches as well, gouge into the wood with the tusk, and then use the trunk to rip off the strips. Well, they are by far the most selective feeders because they're able to access everything. But they make food available as well by pushing over large trees. They then make the top of that tree available to any smaller antelope or animals that would like to feed on those leaves. I'm just going to see if I can roll here, Beaks. Can we roll? Ooh, yes, it's squeaky, but it's rolling. Come on. I'm going to have to start. Okay, you can actually see that individual is busy scratching in the dirt at the moment. There's a tree that's been pushed over there. Luke, yes, indeed, on the back of the elephant, that ridge up on the back is indeed the spine all the way down. I don't know how, I mean, the hide's quite thick, so there's also a big thick hide on top of that, but that is the spinal cord that goes down to the tail, and then obviously the tail, like most animals, is connected to the spinal column. Humans, once we started wearing pants, somehow lost the tail. I don't know where along the line the tail disappeared. It would be quite awkward, wouldn't it, if we all had a tail? What a tail that would be. Okay, well, There's another one about to come into the road, BK. She's looking a little bit easier to film at the moment. Apologies for whoops, off she goes again. Well, she's got the shortest tail out of any elephant I've ever seen. Her tail was shorter than a youngster that was standing next to her before. I've never noticed a female elephant with such a short tail, but she's still got those tail hairs that are very, very, very long. The scientists that I worked with years ago, an organization called Save the Elephants, they told me that you can take an elephant's tail, one of those hairs on the end of the tail, put it under a microscope, and will show you growth rings like that in a tree. I don't think you could do it infield, but he's trying to work the ground. I don't think you could do it infield, but definitely you can actually see the age of an elephant through the tail hair, which is quite cool. That little youngster's only just figured out how to really use the trunk. Look at it go. It's not the most efficient yet. Picking up the tiniest of things. And then chewing. They reckon there's over 100,000 muscles inside the trunk. You've got muscles running down the front, which help to lift it up. Got muscles running down the inside to help it bend in like that. Muscles on the left and the right to help it turn left and right, as well as through the middle there's 2 tubes, which the elephant is able to use for sucking up liquid. And those tubes, if you imagine your nostrils, are very, very long like your nostrils, but extremely long. And they're able to suck up like 2 big hose pipes in the nose. So it takes years for them to figure out how to really utilize all of those little muscles in there. It's a constant eating regime. Cape turtle dove just did a flyby. So you don't always see elephant when you're out. It's very important to listen, because they're one of only a few animals that actually make a noise with the vegetation. Other ones are baboons when they're climbing trees. Monkeys, of course, they don't make as much noise. Kudu thrash vegetation from time to time, as do buffalo and Ngala. And then rhinos crash through vegetation. But the sounds we're listening to now are feeding. Very important to hear those if you're walking through the bush. Hello, Josh and Ben. You want to know how much an elephant tusk weighs? Well, these guys here, none of them have got very big tusks, but historically, some big elephant bulls' tusks have gotten over 100 pounds each. I can't think of what the world record is right now, but they are enormous. There are some very big tuskers around. I haven't seen any big ones in Djuma of late, but those tusks are relatively small, but they're solid. They're solid. Ivory is very, very heavy, and they grow throughout the life. So it varies with size. It's all about the size. Loxodonta africana is the scientific name. I know that sounds quite crazy, but africana meaning coming from Africa, and Loxodonta means long tooth. Isn't that cool? They have a very long tooth. Tusks are essentially their incisors coming out of the mouth, and adaptation. You can see the tip of her tusk there on the right-hand side. You see it's got a little bit of a ridge on it. That ridge is there because elephants are what we call left or right tusked or handed. Like you have a left or right hand you prefer to use, so do elephants. And so that individual takes branches, pulls them on the trunk, and then pushes the tusk underneath, and then snaps the branch. And that little ridge that you see on the tip there was from repetitive branches that have been snapped on the tusk. We're going to move on and eventually check the western boundary, as was our plan, and we're going to send you back over to Taylor in Prrivate.
It's one of the lions sitting up, not very impressed with us this morning that we woke him up as he was fast asleep. I thought that maybe you wanted some breakfast. As you can see, eyes are growing heavy now, and he might go back to sleep again. I would like it if they ate on the carcass. It could be quite cool to, of course, see them tearing into it. Late last night, after the sunset safari finished, the lions did indeed tuck into some breakfast. But it was quite interesting because the boys were feeding, so the two young male lions were feasting upon the buffalo, and then the little lioness tried to squeeze on in, and she was very cautious about the way that she approached the carcass, rightfully so, because as soon as she was about to sink her teeth into the flesh, the one male lion, the one with a limp, with an injured paw, was not very impressed with her and growled and snarled. Too fond of her. She's kind of has to have the scraps and eat when they're not feeding. And now he's laying on half a tree. That doesn't look very comfortable at all. Staring up at all the raptors that are now coming through. We've seen a battalier eagle, we've seen vultures, and we've also seen a tawny eagle. Now you might be able to hear that call. Gert, can you see that magpie shrike? Sorry, I know we've got a lion here, but there's a bird party that's coming through, and just on one of the corkwood trees is just sitting up in front there is a magpie shrike. Listen to its beautiful call. Isn't that lovely? You can also hear, of course, the hornbills chattering in the distance. But it's pretty amazing to see when you sit in one spot for long enough how many things actually come around. Should we do a little bit of birding while these lions sleep? Can I drive up a little bit further ahead, because there's another magpie shrike, and then we can maybe also see the hornbills that are chattering away. Red-billed buffalo weavers. Okay, I'm going to just creep up a little bit further ahead. Don't fly. So there's some red-billed buffalo weavers just in front of us. You can see them just up there. A bird that we don't always get to see so close, and only just a few meters away from us. And there's more than one of them. There's actually a flock of them here. And you can see very clearly why they are called red-billed buffalo weavers. So we know that they make those very untidy nests up on the tops of trees with thorny branches, just like the ones that they're sitting on right now. But you don't always notice also all the white on their bodies. They've actually got quite a bit of white on their feathers. So if they fly, the hornbills are flying around too. There's another magpie shrike. There's all sorts of wonderful things. So there's the southern red-billed hornbill that you could hear calling earlier, woken up, not frantically looking in the branches for a juicy caterpillar or a grasshopper that hasn't thawed out from the cold just yet. Okay, let me go a little bit further forward and we can get another view of the lions. I would like to do a big reposition and try and Let me see if I can go all the way around, because the little lioness and the other male are just at the carcass. So I'm going to see if I can't find a gap. Well, actually, you know what? We'll do that just now. Shall we have a look at the vulture up top here? We're getting there slowly. But there's no rush. I don't have anywhere to be. Do you have somewhere to be? I don't think so. That's why you're watching the show. Probably nighttime for a lot of you. So here we have the hooded vulture, the smallest of the species that we see in this area. Not brave enough to go down on the ground. Pelham, I'm glad that you're enjoying the birding this morning. It's not great opportunities that we do get to spend long lengths of time with our feathered friends. And like I said, I think it's just incredible that we're actually sitting in a sighting with a buffalo, 3 lions, but here we look at the birds. But those animals are not doing anything interesting right now, so we might as well take this opportunity to look at the birds. You can hear the hyenas in the distance. That's what that vulture is now looking at. I don't know what they're doing. They went to sleep, but now it sounds like they've woken up again, so we will probably head on around. We're just going to be doing lots of starting and stopping and repositioning by the sounds of it today. But unfortunately, our kids' drive has now come to an end. So thank you very much, children all over the world, for sending through your questions. Please don't stop sending them in. You're more than welcome to. We'll happily answer them. But we will be getting to some of the other questions now. So remember to hashtag us WildEarth on Twitter, or comment away on the various social.
Oh, so that's limited. Okay, that's fair enough. 20 meters or whatever.
Tomorrow we'll start the kids' drive again. Some oxpeckers that just flew overhead. Right, shall we get to the gory bits now, Gert? Are you ready to see a carcass? Yeah. Are you? Okay, just checking. I have to make sure that Gert is also well looked after. Okay, let's go around. Yeah. Try not drive over any sickle bush. I'm tired of changing tires. I've had to change so many tires over the last few days. There's a fair amount of this tree called the sickle bush, which I know a lot of you have seen before. It's got these big spines. It likes to puncture tires. I'm going to do a bit of a maneuver. Also, I'm driving the Titanic. Okay. Now, I'm going to go in here really slowly because I know that these lions can be a little bit nervous. So we're cruising at snail's pace. And I'm going to just poke my nose around the corner and then stop. And hopefully they stay settled. I don't know why these cats can be so nervous. There's the young lioness. And I know that they've said that they've picked up other male lion tracks on the property this morning. So those other 2 big boys might be out doing their rounds, doing their patrols. So it might be difficult to see those lions because they're lying sort of in the long grass and under that wattle, that weeping wattle that we saw the other day. I don't know if we're actually seeing them. This might be a worse off space. Just gonna try and go through here. Sorry, everybody. Try and find little gaps and things like that. There's a small branch. Get whacked in the face by that. Luckily, there's no thorns. What is that lion doing? Is he chasing the hyenas? Look, look, look. That's the male lion that is not injured, has just got up, and he's just charged at the hyenas. Sorry, he's just behind the bushes. It's very difficult to see. I was wondering, he was stalking, and I couldn't understand why he was doing that, but he'll turn and maybe come back. The other lions, this is an even worse off position. We can't see them at all because they're in the grass. Joy. I'm almost thinking that I might not want to look at these lions anymore and just go play with the hyenas because they're far more entertaining and they are accommodating. Okay, now I need to try and get out of here because this is actually not going to work at all. So I shall be reversing out. Sorry if I don't look at the camera. But saw all the branches we had to dodge going forwards. Going backwards is infinitely harder. You're right. Okay. We're going to try and get us back around to the other side and go and watch the hyenas. Off we go back to Ngala to see how their morning is treating them.
Okay, so we managed to find this herd of buffalo. You can see it looks like it's not really a lookout. I think it's just a lost buffalo that decided to walk up the termite mound. But if you actually look very carefully, so that's a female. This is a big breeding herd. They're quite far into the bushes, but I'd estimate it might be 100 to 200 buffalo. I think we've got the tail end on this side, but they sound like a lot. But you saw there, as OD zoomed in, on that termite mound, you can see all of the grass. So there's a lot of, especially behind that buffalo. There's some green grass there. You can see that greenery. And termite mounds are actually very fertile areas. You'll often see a tree or bushes, a number of things growing out of a termite mound. And it's very fertile, very nutritious. So you'll often see things like the buffaloes, rhinos, elephants eating around a termite mound to get to that fresher, greener grass. But you'll also notice now, especially in front of us, there's a number of these buffaloes that are just standing, staring at us. They're watching us. And it's because of the weather. So while we've been out now this morning, we've had a lot more rain. In fact, Odie and I were on the way back towards the camp because the rain was getting very, very, very heavy. Lots of rain. So it changes the animals' behaviors quite a lot, the rain. As you can imagine, you've been out in a storm before. It makes it very hard to hear things, to see things, to smell things. So animals like these, the buffaloes, which are a prey species, buffaloes which are a prey species will get very nervous. And Tammy, I think, made a comment now that this buffalo is pulling a mountain goat tactic, which is very true, Tammy. It got pretty high up on that mound, and those mounds can be quite tricky because they're hard and they crumble. That buffalo, I'm going to try to go forwards, see if we can get another look at these buffaloes. But that female there is probably weighing close on 600 kilograms, which is very, very heavy. And especially on that mound, it can easily just crumble, slide, break off. So the buffalo's been quite brave to actually venture up onto a mound that high. So, bit of a challenge. There's a gap here, hey? Let's see if we reverse. Let me know. So you see now, it will be... So look at that. Look at the screen right now. You would never say that there were 100, at the least, 100 buffaloes inside there. Their camouflage is actually very good for, like we said, 800 kilogram black animals. They blend inside this green, yellow, brown foliage very, very well. They're going to be very nervous. This is right around the area. Clara Dam is just behind us. So this is, where myself and Bonnie were following the lions last night. But we got a question from my virtual friend, Sassy Cassie. Me and Sassy Cassie chat every now and then. Sassy Cassie wants to know the average lifespan of a buffalo out here. So, Sassy Cassie, it's about 22, 23 years on average in the wild. And that's obviously dependent if Birmingham Pride eat you when they're a bit younger or not. But I would say, you get the old big bulls out here. I would say it's probably close on 18 to 20 years. Just with, the difficulty, the droughts we've been having, and the lack of food, the lack of water, things like that, they probably only go 18, 20 years. But according to literature, they can live to about 23, 24 years. But it all just depends. But what we're going to do, we're going to carry on. You can see that herd, they moved off. They went deeper into the actual bush. We'll loop around, see if we can find them. It's also a bit weather dependent for us. You can see up there, it's looking pretty pretty dark and gloomy, so we're going to take the rain as it comes. But while we carry on, what we're going to do is send you across to Damon at andBeyond Phinda.
Welcome back to andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve, everyone. And we are still on our search for this pride of lions. Alas, we have not had any luck just yet. Their tracks have been leading us in circles, kind of off and onto this open grassland, up into the hillsides. And just looking at the way that the tracks are moving, it looks like these lions were hunting. They kind of go off in one direction and then come back onto the road and then off into the bush, back onto the road. But in our search through this open grassland, we found this magnificent bird for you. And it's called a yellow-throated longclaw. I don't know if you can see the yellow bit of its throat there. It has got its back turned to us currently. It's also got that beautiful white outer edge to its tail. How pretty is that yellow? Every time it looks back at us, just get a glimpse of that lovely yellow throat. And look at how huddled up it is. Oh, stretching its wings. Now we said we did get a little bit of rain last night, and so the grass around it is all sopping wet. It's a chilly breeze that's blowing, making this bird a little bit cold. So just like we might do when we get out the shower and it's a little bit chilly, we kind of huddle up and we wrap our towel around ourselves. That's exactly what this little bird is doing. And just while it's got its back to us, I'd like to show you quickly in the bird book what it looks like from the front, because if it doesn't swivel around and it does fly away before, oh, like it did now. Oh, there's two of them, look. It's giving their display flight call. Two of them together, so a male and female. But here is a picture in the bird book of what this bird looks like. Have a look at that. See that beautiful yellow throat and that black bib that comes across its chest like that? And I said it's called a yellow-throated longclaw. Have a look at its feet here. I don't know if you can make it out there, but look at how long the back toe long as well. And that claw is a special adaptation for this bird because it lives in areas like this with the long grass. It will use this long claw on the back of its foot as it grass. Imagine that, walking across the very tops of the grass with that long claw helps it to spread its weight so that it doesn't just fall straight to the. We'll be looking for things like insects to feed on. Yeah, very pretty. We're gonna carry on down this road here. There's lots of wildebeest around us, and you even heard that one just now that was snorting at us. But while we continue our search for these lions, we'll send you to Dylan at Tswalu Kalahari so that he can say good morning to you.
Good morning from a, some would say a fresh morning here in the Kalahari, at Tswalu Kalahari. It's Jean-Ray, as always, assisting us here, and my name's Dylan. Yeah, like I said, it's quite a fresh morning this morning. It's great having you with us. Yeah, sorry we've been like up and down the past couple of days. We've just had some challenges in terms of our tech stuff, but we have Jean-Ray that's just been like working flat out behind the scenes to get things right. And then we got on top of this mountain in the distance here, you might not actually be able to see him. In fact, you probably won't, but I just want to show you. At the moment, Alex has actually climbed up there in the pitch dark. He started off this morning, and he's on the very top of that mountain as we're speaking, just working on some issues. So we're really hoping we kind of like got this nailed down for you. And but yeah, it's just brilliant having you with us again. And I've got some, well, Jeandre and I, both of us, we've got some fun stuff up our sleeves for this afternoon in particular. And we had it yesterday, and then, you know, things happen, and that's the way life goes. But for this afternoon, it's going to be, I think, really cool, and we're just going to hold thumbs and see if that works. But I want to introduce you to someone else at the moment. It's a little guy. Yeah, Megan's just said what a glorious sunrise it is, and it is just amazing. I mean, yeah, who wouldn't want to see this? This is just like, I mean, look at that. Look at that. Eh? So much, I mean, that's just unreal. But the person I want you to meet, unfortunately, we're not going to see them, and they are deep down and fast asleep, but I want to show you their house. It's pretty cool. And I was looking for ones yesterday, and I made a brief mention of them, but we didn't actually get to see any. Where's the house? Okay, so this little mound of sand over here that's broken up, okay, there's another nice example. And some of you that have been to the, some of you that are, wait, hold on, I'm just going to help Jeandre here with the cable quickly. There we go, sir. Cheers. So some of you that have been to Tswalu, have been in the Kalahari, may already be familiar with these little animals. They are probably, for me, one of the sweetest, cutest things on Tswalu, with the worst teeth if you ever get bitten by them. This little mound of sand over here is made by an animal called a Damaraland mole rat. And so these are not moles, they're mole rats. And they are about that size. The adults, sometimes a little bit bigger. They're a beautiful grey colour. In fact, yeah, almost the colour of these dead branches here. But on the top of their heads, every individual has a little white patch. The fur on the top of the head is a white patch, and every single one is a different shape. So people working, guys doing research on them. We've had some amazing people doing work out here over the years. A chap called Carl Finn, he's done a lot of work on them. And they can actually identify the individuals when they take a colony out, and then they just mark them, measure them, weigh them, and then they put them back underground again. Super easy to catch them, but there's no way you'll dig them out. There's certain techniques to do it. But what's diagnostic about these little mounds of sand? See how they push out these big, like sausages of sand, and when you see that, then you know that's a mole rat that's been digging over there. And again, I just want to highlight the fact that we drive around and we walk, and we're seeing such diversity above ground, in terms of plants and the amazing animals we see, giraffe and pangolins and lions or whatever it is. But just, it's always good just to spare a thought for what's happening underground. We had a look at that beautiful underground tree yesterday morning. And I think I made a mention of it. I did that, how these mole rats don't like eating those roots. They'll nibble on them. But there's a whole mass of underground stems and tubers and roots and rhizomes, things just below where we're sitting here, that these little mole rats absolutely go crazy for. One of our long-standing researchers here, he works on white-browed sparrow weavers, and he's done stuff on mole rats as well, Andy Young, from the University of Exeter in the UK. I just laughed the other day. He said to me, I was asking about these mole rats, and he says, no, mole rats dream of these cucurbit roots and rhizomes. He says that's what they dream about. So, yeah, but anyhow, they're very sweet little creatures. We're unlikely to see one in the summer months. If we've had good rain and you're with us, then we're going to see. Then you can actually see them above ground, and that moving from colony to colony. So, but yeah, anyway, great having you with us. And we're going to carry on and see what else we can find for you. But in the meantime, head back to our colleagues in the Lofel. I think it's Damien. Yeah, and enjoy. We'll see you later.
Welcome back. We've just repositioned around the other side of those wildebeest that we were with earlier. And it's quite a picturesque scene that we've got out here in front of us. Look at these wildebeest, all with their heads down, busy grazing. And just off to their right, there is also a group of zebra. And so both of these mammals, or these herbivores rather, sorry, grazing out here in the open. Look at that beautiful like pastel coloured sky above them. See how they're spread out, each looking for its own fill of the grass. And if we zoom in, I'm going to use my binoculars. We'll get Marcel to zoom in with the camera for you. Look at how where the zebra are feeding. I don't know if you can see, but the grass there is slightly longer than the grass here in front of us on which the wildebeest are feeding. And I'm sure you've all seen many times the zebra and wildebeest together, feeding in similar areas and moving together to similar areas. And obviously, the two species being together, each lending their senses and just being extra eyes and ears and noses to keep a lookout for danger. So moving around in a big group like this will help to keep them safe from predators like the lions we're looking for. But also, we said that the wildebeest were feeding on shorter grass and the zebra were eating slightly longer grass. Because of how the zebra crop longer grass down to make it shorter, they almost facilitate the wildebeest by cutting longer grass shorter so that the wildebeest eat it. So they almost help each other out in a way. So one of the many reasons why the two species are often seen so closely together. We've been paying very careful attention to these wildebeest and these zebra this morning. Like we said, this is where the lions were last night. Sarah, you're asking what a zebra's closest relative is. You're asking if it is a wildebeest. Sarah, it is not. Wildebeest and zebra are not very closely related. A zebra's closest relative, at least in Africa, would be something like we get a kind of wild donkey that lives in the north of Africa. It's various kinds of, well, I suppose the technical term is wild ass. You get various wild asses that live up in the north of Africa. That doesn't sound very nice, me saying that. But other than that, they're not very closely related. But I was just going to say, so we've been paying very careful attention to these wildebeest and these zebra this morning, just watching their body language, because if they spot a lion or they smell a lion, they'll start to stare at it and start to alarm call at it. And that can be a very big help. I mean, look at how vast this grassland is that we're sitting in here. And even though we've got our binoculars out and we've been looking carefully, looking for tracks, these animals that rely on their senses, on their eyesight and their hearing and their sense of smell to survive, their senses are a lot sharper than ours are, and so they're going to be more likely to detect those lions than we are. Also because there's more of them. There's just Marcel and myself in the vehicle, whereas there's a whole bunch of wildebeest, a whole bunch of zebra. But for now, see how they've got their heads down and they're grazing pretty peacefully, so I don't think that these lions are anywhere nearby. Although I'm pretty sure that the last wildebeest that these lions ate thought the same thing moments before it was pounced on. And if we have a quick look, so have a look at this herd of wildebeest in front of us here. See how there's a bunch of them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them that are very close together, and then one that's off to the right, and look at how much bigger he is than the others, how much darker he is. And if you can have a close look at his forehead, see if you can see the color of his forehead, everyone. Now that he's facing towards us, can you see how dark it is? In comparison to the wildebeest on the left that are in the group, see how their foreheads are a much lighter color. They're all like a light brown color, as opposed to his black forehead. And that's one of the ways we can tell males and females apart. The males have got that very dark forehead. They've got much thicker horns because they use them for fighting with each other. And they tend to be a bit bigger in body size. And so that male on the right is not a part of this herd. This herd that's on the left, this will be made up of females and their youngsters. I don't know if you can see on the right there's a youngster with little spikes for horns. And so this herd of females and their youngsters will kind of move around, and they'll go wherever the best grass is. They won't have a set territory that they live in. Whereas this male, this is his territory. He won't leave this area. This is where he's got good food and good water, and he'll defend this territory against other bulls and hope that he can keep the females here for long enough, or he'll try and keep the females here for as long as he can, especially during the rutting season. Sassy Cassie, you're saying that wildebeests are very cool animals? Sassy Cassie, I agree with you. They often get kind of looked down upon, and people make fun of them. They say that they look funny and they behave strangely. They are quite strange, I suppose, in the way that they look. Look at those horns, almost reminiscent of a cow. Look at this youngster. What's he galloping to? Oh, there's another. Look at that. There's a wildebeest galloping in from the right. I wonder if this is... Maybe it's mother and he's been separated from his mother. He's making some bleating noises. Wouldn't this be amazing if this is a joyful reunion between mother and calf? It is a female, looking through my binoculars. I can see her brown forehead. And he's going to suckle. No ways! That's so cute! We just saw the joyful reunion between a mother and her calf. How amazing was that, everyone? And that might have been why there was so much commotion a little bit earlier. They were making quite a lot of bleating noises and snorting noises, and we at first thought that maybe the lions were nearby. Sam, you're saying wow, wow. Indeed, that was a very special moment to witness out here. Very, very, very special. Absolutely adorable and cute, I agree. I was going to say though, he looks like he's a little bit too big to be suckling from his mother, and I see already he's already stopped, and he's now walking along behind her. And watch together now as they'll make their way back towards the herd. Walking through the zebra. Incredible though, we were just speaking about their senses, and it was quite a way off that young wildebeest managed to spot that, or that young wildebeest managed to spot its mother. So, very sharp senses. And I see now off to the right, there's even more wildebeest that are busy filing in. And I wonder if perhaps this is all just one herd, and they got separated in the night, perhaps in the confusion of the rainstorm. Perhaps these lions that we're looking for, perhaps they tried to hunt these wildebeest, and they scattered them during the night. Of course, in the dark, it would have been every wildebeest for itself, and it would have just run it to try and get away from the potential threat. So they would have split up, and now, in the hours of dawn, they've started to regroup. But wow, that was special. MGM, you're asking if certain herbivores prefer damp greenery to eat. MGM, I don't think it's so much damp as it is fresh. I think pretty much all the herbivores will prefer to eat fresh growth. It'll be more nutritious and probably better tasting. What I have noticed, though, is that often herbivores don't like to feed on the sides of roads during the winter time or during the dry season because of all the dust that settles on those leaves from the road. And after a rainstorm like this, you'll often find herbivores coming back towards those areas where they haven't been feeding for a while because the dust has been washed off. But it's more the freshness of the growth as opposed to whether it's wet or not. And this herd all coming back into the same little area. So I wonder if it is not the same herd that just got split up during the night. And that wildebeest bull, like we were saying, he defends this territory, and he'll hang on to it and hope that females move into his territory, especially over the breeding season. A bit late for that now, but I'm sure he'll be happy to have the company that he's got for the time being. It's so amazing. Like, often we can get very caught up in only looking for, I suppose you call them higher profile animals, lions and cheetahs and leopards and elephants. And very often some of the most amazing moments can be experienced while just spending time with other animals, like these wildebeest. It's a very peaceful scene. There's a lot of youngsters in that herd. My goodness. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6... maybe even 7. A whole bunch of youngsters in that herd. And have a look at how they're all the same size. And I'm sure you've seen, those of you that have been watching for some time now, for the last couple of years, you will have noticed that the wildebeest calves all tend to be born at about the same time in the year. And just imagine, in terms of like a survival strategy, how that would work. Because imagine if a lion, like the lions we're looking for, if this pride of lions were to find this herd during, let's say, December time, when all the wildebeest calves are busy being born. If there was no set breeding season and there was just the one calf in that herd, that would be the calf, or that would be the individual that those lions would probably go and hunt. Because it's smaller, it's weaker, it's not as agile, maybe a bit slower as well. And so that's a guaranteed target just about for a predator. But imagine if all of the females in the herd give birth at the same time, and there's a whole bunch of little calves running around, then the odds of your baby being killed are that much less. So from one zebra herd to the next, we're going to send you across to Tswalu Djuma, who's also got some zebras for you. We're going to carry on with our morning and see what else we can find.
Our zebras were just drinking. up north here in Sydney's Dam. Quite a few of them. This was awesome to see. They're quite a distance away because they are beyond our northern boundary, so we're sitting on the boundary watching them. But aren't they just stunning? Certainly a dazzle. And there's a little calf. A little foal. 2 little foals. One definitely is a littlest from these 3. Just lovely. Now, you know when we see them up close, you see the black and white, it looks so striking. But when you actually look from afar, it's difficult to see them with that striped coloration. Ellen, you'd like to know if all animals have a fixed breeding time? No, they don't. Antelopes tend to have that, but that's also not something that all antelopes have. For example, kudu don't have a fixed breeding time. They actually don't. What ends up happening is that animals like to coordinate the births of their young to when the resources are most abundant. So for us, that would be in the summer when there's rains. And then other parts of the world where the rains happen in the winter, though it may be cold, that would be when it will be greenest. So animals will actually tend to coordinate their births to resources are most abundant. The animals that coordinate their births, their mating season and then their births, for the reason of being able to saturate basically the market with their young, those are doing that to increase the survival of the young with a different strategy. That being that fewer or more will survive if there are just too many calves around than if births were staggered and predators would have the opportunity throughout the year to hunt. I mean, predators are much fewer than herbivores. So if they saturate the area with young, then the predators can only eat so much. These guys here having the time of their lives. In a bit of eddy dung, they've broken up, looking for tiny insects. Red-billed hornbills. Also a little puffed up. Trying to keep warm, much like myself. I had to go get another jacket. I call the jacket I have with me my sleeping bag because it's so warm. Much like their feathers. Keeps them very, very warm. You might imagine that feathers evolved for flight, but it is wings that evolved for flight. Feathers had evolved for warmth. And once we had wings and feathers, then both started to work off each other, and wings worked better with feathers. And then their use became intertwined. I love how they throw whatever they found up and then they catch it. Connor, you'd like to know, what are they eating? They're eating little insects that are inside the elephant dung. So inside elephant dung, you get a huge amount of insects. That's apart from the fact that you get about, I think one study found over 100 different seeds in elephant dung, but these guys are after invertebrates, so they're going to be looking for little termites that may go in there, beetles, maybe even little millipedes, little hemipterans, basically invertebrates that enjoy a sheltered, warm, damp area, like a dung ball. Also, because elephants don't digest completely. A lot of what they excrete still has nutrients in it, so many invertebrates will come over and try to eat from it, and then these guys eat those invertebrates. I like how they use their beaks to lift and dig like that. Is that Big Sue? You'd like to know if they'd pick through carnivore dung? They wouldn't. Carnivore dung is a speciality. Other carnivores may pick through carnivore dung. I've seen hyenas eat lion scat. That's what we call carnivore dung. We call it scat. I've seen carcass beetles and other particular beetles that like carnivore dung. Now, my comms went out a little bit there, but I know that I'm sending you away from me. So for me, it's a surprise where I'm sending you. I hope it's going to be a surprise for you too. Okay. Well, you're actually just staying with me. I didn't hear much, so I thought she said, while you sit here. But you're staying with me. We're on the northern boundary, like I said. So we're going to head east, check out Buffelshoek Dam, and then maybe dip our toes at Chitwa Dam. No, we're not going to actually dip our toes there. But we will go and visit. Now, guys, if you enjoy our safari and can't hear terribly clearly, but we're going to send you to Taylor, who's got some monkeys.
We have got a troop of baboons. Well, we had a troop of baboons. There was an entire family just sitting out on this debris, sunning themselves. But they have moved off now, and we're left with one that cannot resist the warmth of the sun's rays, having a bit of a scratch, and also just keeping an eye out. It's actually very nice to see them. It's not something that I've seen too often here at Pridelands. I don't know where they've all been hanging around, but luckily for us, they don't come and terrorize us in camp, which baboons are known to do. Just sitting there. It's a pity the others have now disappeared. I think they're just behind where this baboon is sitting, but there were some lovely small ones that were all playing around. I thought that if we sit here for long enough, they might come back, but that does not seem to be the case. Just checking behind it. So that's where that baboon is looking, is where the rest of the troop is. But it's nice, though. It's a nice spot. You can see the wind is picked up. There's definitely some icy feels this morning. Baboon's coat is all shaggy. Now it's time to do some cleaning. Inspecting the feet. Look at that interesting foot, hey? You can see how big their feet are, too. Just making sure that there's no thorns and things like that in there. I'm now going to go through the coat and pick out any ticks and any parasites, which I'm sure there are quite a few, although baboons and vervet monkeys are very good at keeping themselves clean. As they sit here like this, they spend a large amount of their time just making sure that their coats are in good nick, and of course get a meal out of it too. Baboon, I bet you're excited for some fruit to start developing on the trees. At the moment, the only tree that's really got any fruit on it is the torchwood trees. and the elephants are making it difficult for them to feast on the nice sugary snack because they've been shaking the trees and all the fruit falls down. But soon the jackalberries will bear their fruit in a few months' time, and that should give us some great sightings because there's some spectacular jackalberries. But that's what that baboon will do shortly, is after it has warmed up and the troop has moved towards the edge of the drainage line, they will start feeding. They're much like us in the sense that they have the same routine, sleeping when it's nice and dark, keeping warm, and then of course at first light waking up. There's always a rush. Actually, at one of the eco-training camps in Botswana, in Mashatu, you could always hear the baboons waking up early in the mornings as they were resting in some of the tall trees lining the river. And they always let off a bit of a shout and a scream, especially the youngsters. It's almost like kids not wanting to get ready for school and not wanting to put their uniform on or eat breakfast. But this looks like a young male. I haven't seen any big boys, but again, they might be with the rest of the troop. Just scanning around. They've actually got really beautiful eyes. You don't want to go to work today, do you? No. Come on, give us a yawn so we can see those beautiful big canines. Seems as though the lions didn't want to show us their teeth today. Maybe you will. They've also got like elf-like ears, don't you think? I like the way that they sort of come to a little point at the tip. But I don't think that they have a problem keeping warm. Look how thick that fur is. And it's funny, when you go down to the Eastern Cape of South Africa, or the west coast of South Africa, you'll see that the baboons there, which is the same species, the Chakma baboon, are much fluffier, much hairier, just because it's a little bit colder down there. They almost resemble more like olive baboons, which have got a slightly shaggy coat, and you can see them up in East Africa. But they sort of look like that. But baboons eat lots of different things. Just seeing as though we're talking about what they feast upon. Right now, I don't know what they'll be eating, because all the leaves are not particularly delicious. Most of the trees are losing their leaves. Maybe they're digging for bulbs, and that's potentially why they could have come out to this area, because we're at the big open plains on Prrivelands, so they could move through here and search for all sorts of delicious things that might be hiding underneath the earth. Just like the elephants, they'll change their diet depending on the time of the year. No, he's got his eyes closed. Come on, have a little mid-morning siesta. That's not frowned upon. It's a pity those others are all hiding. There's no one else out and about. We're actually very close to this baboon. So I'm sure you know that unfortunately humans and baboons don't have the greatest relationship, purely because baboons are too intelligent for their own good, and they work out how stupid we as people can be and how easy it is to break into our houses and kitchens, and that we're quite forgetful and leave windows open. And of course for an animal like this, that is also hugely opportunistic, and like I said, is rather intelligent, works out how easy it is to go in and raid the kitchen. So I was surprised that this baboon let us get within, I think, about 25, maybe 30 meters away from it. Maybe even a little bit less than that, not far at all. We don't get to always get good views of baboons like this. Andrea, I suppose this baboon is a bit hunched up at the moment, a bit like myself, and I think most of us when we sit at a desk. They're very human-like when you watch a baboon, even the way that it scratches. It just stretches its arm out, stretches its leg out. Doesn't really mind who's watching. Even doing that. It's like a kid wiping their nose on their sleeve. But very itchy this morning. I can't imagine all the little things that are crawling around on its coat. Actually makes my skin crawl just at the thought of it. Do you know what else I've just seen, Kat? That little antelope over there. We're going to just see if we can get a view of it. Standing out in the open, it hasn't quite realized that we are here. Sorry, I'm just having a look with the binoculars. But all the way in the distance, so you can see how big of an open plain it is. That tiny little thing there is quite a chubby little antelope, though, is a little steenbok. Marching through the grass, just feeding on all the little shrubs. It's nice to see the smaller antelope. We've actually been seeing lots of steenbok, lots of duiker as well, common duiker. So I think taking advantage. It's a nice windy day. Well, maybe not nice. Nice for the predators, not so nice for these antelope that are quite nervous and shy and hide away in the denser vegetation. But a bit scary to live amongst the thicket when you can't really see around you. So a clever move from the steenbok to come out and utilize these open areas. You can see almost just sticking to the shadows. Really going to have to rely on its eyesight today. Must be careful because there's been a whole bunch of martial eagles flying around, and a martial eagle would definitely take something the size of a steenbok. But you can see not keeping its head down for too long. Still listening, but I don't think that it's going to be able to hear very much. Sense of smell and eyesight are going to be winning. Shadulufan, they are tiny and they are cute. They're really small, but don't let size put you off. They can also be very dangerous. They've got sharp little horns that you can see protruding out of its forehead. And even for something like a leopard, if a leopard makes a wrong move, those horns will slice straight through its skin and leave a nasty gash. But he's in good nick though, hey? He's definitely quite round around the mid-region. Also very powerful hindquarters. I suppose they use those to propel themselves forward. Yes, San, that's a good question. It is indeed an adult. I probably should have told you in the beginning. It's very small, right? But they don't get any bigger than this. You can see he's got little horns. So the females don't have any horns, but the boys do. So we get some small antelope species here. We see this one. Sometimes we can see a grysbok, which looks very similar to a steenbok. And then we also have a common duiker, which is another small one. That they're a little bit bigger than the steenbok, though. And normally what you do see, San, is them just literally darting across the road or through the thicket and the tall grass and bushes. But that was a very nice sighting. Just heading a little bit further away. Okay, we're going to carry on driving now. Let's see what else we can find as we bumble along. Our baboon is still sitting here. I'm going to drive past it. I don't know if it's going to run away, but we'll see if we can get a different angle. Hey, Bobo. I don't blame you. I also wouldn't move. Oh, there's a few more. Okay, let me go all the way forward. Why can't you all just be relaxed like your friend? We're pretending, we're driving away, No. Okay, I don't know if the other baboons are as happy marching towards the back of that heap of wood, but you can see there's one more that's just sitting there. I think they're quite tempted with the sun this morning. Marching around. It's quite a big troop too. MGN, I wouldn't be surprised if a baboon would pick up a rock and use it as a tool. I think if they do use things as tools, they'll be very basic, but they're not quite as advanced as these. I've never really seen one, sticking a piece of grass down into a mound to collect termites or ants or anything like that. I've seen baboons running off with multiple cups and, various types of crockery and cutlery. So I always joke and say, I don't know if they're running a restaurant somewhere because they always run away with a milk jug. Why they need a milk jug is, I have absolutely no answer to it. There's always knives and forks that go missing. Never seen one using a knife and a fork, though. So no, they don't use tools in that sort of sense, but they're clever. I'm sure if they can't get into something, like say, I mean, when you watch them eat ostrich eggs, okay, we don't see so many ostriches here, but like again, down in the Eastern Cape of South Africa, where I used to work on a reserve down there, the baboons would raid ostrich nests all the time. The biggest threat to them are hyenas and brown hyenas and to the ostrich eggs, and you'd sit and you'd watch them, and they would hold them, and then they'd try and crack them, because an ostrich egg is quite thick, and the shell is quite thick, and they would then like smash them on rocks and then open them up that way. So they're definitely very intelligent, but they're also very powerful animals. But I'll keep my eye open to see if they use a knife and fork one day. That would be the day. I always wave at baboons and do a thumbs up, hoping that one day they'll do it back to me. But not today. Right, as this baboon moves around, off you go back to Djuma, to Steve, and to see if they're as cold as we are.
It's pretty fresh over here, Taylor. Pretty fresh. I'm sure the weather is pretty similar to where you are. You're not far away from us, 80 kilometers or so north. We found a little herd of wildebeest. I've been driving up and down the area where I was tracking the lions last night. They have not come out at all. And the wildebeest, we tracked them in from Djuma. They came in. They went and drank at the one-eyed pan, where we always looking for animals. So animals do drink there. That's the truth. There were game paths there which indicate it. And now these wildebeest are in their preferred habitat, these nice open sort of areas. Of course, there is a bit of green bush behind them there, but this is their preferred sort of habitat. These little edges that are created all around the Sabi sands. An alarm calling. Not very upset. But somewhere behind us in one of these blocks is a pride of lion. And they have not come out of that block, which means that the tracks that I had yesterday of them chasing buffalo probably means that they missed. I mean, that I caught a buffalo. But I cannot for the life of me find them. Maybe the wildebeest will tell us. Where are they, wildebeest? Yeah, that snort. Yeah, snorting because of us, you see. You can see looking right at us. If they're upset, the one on the right would not be chewing and would not be ruminating. When animals are upset, everything is forgotten. All that they pay attention to is danger. And wildebeest feature very highly on the diet of lions. Ngala likes having a look at their calves. The adults are too big for a big male leopard. If you have the time, everybody, and inclination, please feel free to go to the link below. Help to support us in any way you can, so we can continue to bring you wonderful images from the African wilderness. So a very good understanding of an animal's habitat is by looking at the male and the female when it comes to these antelope species. And if the female has got horns, then it generally means that they are an open plain specialist. They rely on herd dynamics for safety, and the female will use her horns to defend her youngster. And obviously we've seen the great migration of wildebeest. We've seen buffalo, they're in the open. All the gazelle are in the open. Eland are mainly grassland sort of species. Sabi are also more of an open grassland species, as well as sable and roan. All those animals, both male and female, have horns, and that is for male for fighting, female for protection. Now, being in a dense thicket with horns is a very big disadvantage. So when you find animals that are thicket dwellers.
Station Lancelot, are there any updates for the...
Sorry about that. When you find females with no horns and the male has horns, then you know that they are supposed to be a dense...
Good morning, Henry here.
Sorry, everybody, my radio was on scan and everybody's talking. So if the female has no horns, the male does. He uses them for fighting, and if he's still alive after being able to avoid predation by running through the vegetation, I don't know if you've ever seen a kudu bull trying to evade or run through the thickets. It's quite something to behold. He has to put his head all the way back, so his horns rest on his back. So it makes it for a difficult escape. And so those species, male and female, have horns to try and avoid dense vegetation. It's not their primary habitat. And of course, Wildebeest, being a grazer, don't really require vegetation, or trees, should I say. They do utilize the shade provided by trees to keep them cool in the summer. Kelly, that is an enormously broad question. You want to know how much on average do animals' horns weigh? I'm guessing we could talk about the wildebeest here, and I really have no idea how much a set of wildebeest horns weighs. I don't know. I've never weighed the horns of a wildebeest, but a big male wildebeest can get up to 250, 275 kilograms. The horns, probably 10% of that. I'm just guessing. Taylor found a buffalo bull skull in the bushes close to our camp 2 years ago, which he brought to camp, and that is it's actually difficult for a man to pick up. BK, you've tried picking up those horns, eh? Heavy, eh? Mm-hmm. They are enormously heavy, so the horns themselves add weight, which are also a disadvantage. It's why you find male antelope or male buffalo or male animals, for example, having bigger set of horns. Females have the horns. They don't need the helmet or protection on the front that the big males have for head-butting each other. But they definitely have a smaller amount of horns, but they still can give quite a lot of damage to a lion or a cheetah or a leopard that tries to maybe snatch one of the babies. And they are very good with horns. They know exactly where they are situated. But I don't actually know off the top of my head how much. There's the male. You can see the size difference between him and the female to the left and the right. And also a nice way to identify, if you see the female, can you see that her ears are pretty much equal with her horns going out, whereas the male's horns stretch far further than his ears do. That's a good way of sort of ascertaining who the male is in the herd. He's always the bigger one. He always seems to be a bit darker, and he often behaves in a way that indicates that he's a male. If you find him scratching the ground, rolling, rubbing the tree, or rubbing his body against a female, or standing sideways and showing you the size of his body, very good indication that it's a male. Younger males get by pretending not to be males, and the older dominant bulls ignore them while they do so. Okay, very good. Well, andBeyond Ngala has got a small canid. Let's quickly go over to them.
So we are back out here. We got trapped in the rain again, so we had to call it quits and go dry off everything. But now on our way out, we managed to find this very strikingly beautiful black jackal. Now you can see he's actually standing quite close. If he zooms out slightly, you can see he's standing quite close to these impalas, which is perfectly fine though. The jackal, although yes, technically is a hunter, he's more of a scavenger. Oh, there it goes. Yep, there's the partner. There's the partner, the other jackal. So they live here. Yeah, look at that, hey, right in the middle of the herd. So the impalas are watching it, but they're not two-faced. I mean, look at the size difference. Look at the jackal compared to the impalas. The impalas are much, much bigger, so the jackal doesn't pose too much of a threat. But if there was a baby, like an impala lamb, or even some ground birds, they would definitely, the jackals would definitely go for those. You know, these jackals live in nice open grasslands where you'll get a number of ground nesting birds. They'll eat the eggs and the small little chicks. For now, all of these impalas are quite big, so they are not too worried. There you can see the jackals, but look at them, very slowly, just sort of smelling around, moving, maybe looking for any sort of small little insects or millipedes, something like that. But if you remember, a number of times we have showed you that jackal family. I think it's about 6 or 7 of them that live out on Cheetah Flats. So this is a different mating pair, and they had their own little den further off to our right, where you can't see. I don't know exactly where, but there's a clearing, and inside those clearings they also had a number of young. I think they had about 3 or 4 of the pups earlier, well, end of last year rather, and they lived here, did very well. There's lots of lapwings that live around here that I think they feasted upon. I'm sure some of the other guys have mentioned it, but the weather, I was saying it with the buffaloes, it has a major impact. You can see these 2 jackals maybe walking around now, smelling around after this bit of rain that we had. Obviously it makes the ground nice and wet, and you'll get a number of the little insects and the little critters on the ground that start coming out of their holes with the rain, and these jackals are most likely going to do a little bit of foraging, seeing what they can dig up, what they can find, what they can smell. Okay, I want to go a little bit forward. You can see that one's hiding behind the branch, so let's see if we can go forward and get another angle. Oh, where's it gonna go? Where's the other one? Okay, so you can see they camouflage phenomenally well, and if you look at their colors, you'll see now very similar to that of the grass, and the black on the top, you know, that's a little black saddleish, and there they stop just behind the bush, and it makes it look like maybe a termite mounded pile of dung. There we go. Can you get that there? So we got a question from Luna. Now Luna would like to know how many jackal species we get here on andBeyond Ngala. Luna, we get 2. So we get this one, the black-back jackal, and then we get another one called a side-striped jackal. But now these side-striped jackals are not very common. I have seen 10. That is a lot. They are not common here. I'm trying to find you a picture. So we get a picture of one so you can see the difference. Well, have a look at these ones. You can see they got the black on the back that we looked at. That sort of black saddle. Oh. Okay, here we go. There are no pictures of them in the book. But yeah, Luna, just those 2 species is what we get here. The side-striped jackal, the only time I've seen them is up in the northern parts of andBeyond Ngala, very close to our safari lodge. Here we go. Those 2 have moved off the road. So if you look in the book here, that is the side-striped jackal. So you can see it's got that sort of white stripe going across the top there. And the one above it is the black-backed. It's obviously not as red, we just saw it, but it's got that solid black there, Luna, where this one's got that white stripe. It would be very cool if we could find a side-striped. Where have they gone? Over there. It's incredible. You see, they're lying down there in the grass. You can just see above my finger there, that's the head of one. And it's that phenomenal camouflage. You know, especially if you are stalking something like a ground bird, you know, that can easily just fly away. Then you got to be able to stalk and hide and be nice and low so you can get up to one of these ground nesting birds so that they don't fly away. And that's why their camouflage is so important and so good. But it looks like they are going to be lying down now, maybe resting a bit. So what we're going to do, we're going to carry on. And while we do that, we send you across to andBeyond Phinda. It sounds like they have some really big animals.
we're still on our search for these lions, and while we haven't managed to find them yet, we did manage to find these two giraffes busy walking down the hillside, rapidly disappearing from us. And I don't know if you can see just how windy it is. It's quite windy, quite chilly. So I wonder if with this chilly wind, these giraffes are not maybe going to go look for some denser cover, get out the wind a bit, find some big trees to feed on. And there they disappear. A beautiful scene though as well behind them. Look at those wonderful clouds. And then off in the distance, I don't know if you can see those mountains right on the edge of the horizon. There's some rolling hills up there. And those are in fact sand dunes, or the vegetated, forested side of sand dunes. That's how close we are to the ocean here, everyone. And so those big clouds over the ocean at the moment. It's apparently been quite stormy there. Megan, you're saying the view is stunning. I come with you. And that's why, I mean, we saw the giraffe disappearing and we thought, oh, it's going to be quite tough to film them. But we thought the backdrop will be well worth it. Those massive stormy clouds that are rolling along. I think though, I'm not going to be able to unfortunately follow those giraffes. We're going to carry on with our search for these lions. And in the meantime, Trishala has got a bird of prey to show you at Djuma.
I do. It's an African hawk eagle. There were a pair of them in this tree, and usually they do hang about in pairs. And the other one flew to the other tree, and that's quite typical. And they both kind of have a point to survey from, and then they can cooperatively hunt. Very cool, nice and close as well. You can see the very distinct streaked breast, and very white in the breast with those black streaks. What have you seen? Like, these guys love to take ground birds like francolins and spur fowls, guinea fowls. So it'd be up in the trees like that, and one can flush them out while the other one can go down and grab. Now their eyes, like most birds, especially birds of prey, are very well adapted to being aerial predators. They have two fovea. Fovea is a part in the back of your eye that's kind of like your sweet spot. So we've got a fovea, but they have two. So two spots that are very, very, very good, clear, and in focus. And that can help them quite a bit when they have to change it's very quickly. The other thing that they have is a pecten, which is a collection of... Ooh, down you go. A collection of blood vessels that are not actually near the retina, or not on the retina. So we have them kind of like a layer by our retina. And that would mean that at certain times, like when you look at the sun, or if there's a very sudden change in light, as there would be if you were, say, flying through or underneath the bushes, there'd be differences in light. So that creates a shadow in your vision that you would notice as well. And that's the shadow of the blood vessels. These guys and other birds, they don't have that shadow because their blood vessels are in this tight little thing called a pecten. Very, very cool. So they don't have that shadow. Anyway, thank you very much, Hawk Eagle. I'm going to send you now over to Dylan and Tswalu Kalahari.
So after our long wait yesterday, and luckily we actually disappeared from the Ethernet, because these meerkats actually outfoxed us completely. But with some amazing work with our tracking team, they actually relocated this group. So these are the rock stars, and there's a bit of a history behind the name over there. It's got nothing to do with real rock stars whatsoever. The group originated where we first found them. There's like this big 5-way intersection at Tswalu, and there's an old rock. It's just like lying there. Hence the name Rockstar Junction. But that's where these meerkats originated from, and that's where they got their name. So if anyone's wondering about that, it's got nothing to do with any rock stars that we know. So they've moved to a very, very small burrow system now, which is very interesting. And the adult female, the matriarch, or the alpha, what you call the alpha, is going to be having pups. She may even have had the pups already. We're not sure yet. So Jean and I are really going to keep our distance with this group. We're not going to go too close to them. Obviously, we want to have as little disturbance as possible. And so we're just trying to figure out. They've just popped out. It's still very chilly here with this breeze this morning. In fact, this one that we're sitting watching here is the alpha, and she hasn't had her pups, which is brilliant news, because that means over the coming days there's going to be some really, really, really exciting action going on here. I'm very, very chuffed about this. Wow. Okay. And so she's the first one out, getting a little bit of sun over there. The rest of the group is still underground. And you can see she's actually super relaxed with us. This is really good. Wow. So I just walked slightly to the left of Jean over there, and I can actually see she hasn't had her pups yet. So she is still round as a barrel. I mean that in the nicest sense. You're like so careful these days. Oh, Meerkat, we mean that in a nice way. Don't look at me like that. Yeah, there we go. So we were just chatting earlier about why would they move from burrow system. Now the horses, Mosadi and her group that we were following, well, we know there was a clear and a very good reason for them moving. That was badger coming in, digging up burrows, going for pups, youngsters. We kind of accepted that. There's that aspect where there's a clear disturbance. The second thing is potential increase of parasite loads at a burrow system. Excuse me. They obviously, the longer they stay, the higher that parasite load can get at a particular burrow systems, and that could cause a reason for moving. But then the other very interesting thing that we noted with that horse group is once they'd moved down to that new burrow system, the foraging distance away from the burrow was so small. And that, now that could also be nervousness because of, they've just gone to a new burrow system, they've had that badger incident, or maybe they didn't want to go further afield. But what was really cool to see was they were getting successful foraging within a very, very small radius around that burrow. So you may find that all things being equal, and you just take out the risk of a badger rocking up at your burrow. Well, if you've sat for a week or 2 weeks at one burrow system, well, maybe your foraging pattern in that area has decreased the abundance of the food around that within, because you've obviously got limits to how far you can forage away from your burrow system. You can't just go an indefinite distance because you've got competing groups of meerkats, that kind of stuff. So there'll be like an optimal radius, and that radius will be determined to a large extent by food availability. So you may have found that these ones that have been sitting in that burrow, which is now about 1 kilometer due north of us, and they just kind of not exhausted, but the foraging now wasn't optimal. Moved to a different area. They haven't used these burrow systems for a long time. In fact, this is a completely new system. We didn't even know about this. And so maybe their foraging is just like picked up off the charts now. So, and particularly if she's going to be dropping her pups any day now. In fact, I'm surprised she even hasn't yet. She will need as much good quality food as she can get to sustain those pups. So this could be a very, 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 very good move for them and for us, because if she's going to, you know, drop her pups in this burrow system, she's going to be the group is going to be here for the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks at least. So let's hold thumbs. So Jean and I, we're just going to see if we can get a different angle on this and wait for the rest to come out. And in the meantime, head over to Steve and see what they got on that side.
Welcome back to Djuma. Well, we had some elephants, and there they go. Something spooked them. Whole herd of elephants, about 15 to 20. There's still one shouting in the distance. Can't quite tell what has gotten up with them. We're on our way back to Djuma. It's possible that the elephants have encountered a leopard or a lion, something. It's really upsetting. He's chasing it all the way down there. That is Arathusa now. We can't go there. Gonna go back in on the road we just passed. See if we can figure out what's got them all. So, well, there we go. You got him?
Yeah, got it.
Oh, here comes a couple more to cross the road, in fact. The boy's hanging out at the back. Always a bit slow to catch up, but never too far away. See, he's responding to the noises made by the other elephant. Look at the tail, the head, typical behavior of an animal that's showing it's very, very alert. Okay. I stood there a moment ago, sniffing my shoes. Here comes another boy. He's got a bit of a breakfast in his mouth still. See, I didn't walk on the side there. They're smelling something else. Don't know what it is. Maybe there was a leopard. Sorry about the pole in the shot. We're on our boundary now. We're about to get interrupted by a tractor, so I'm just going to move out of the way. I'm going to drive up here slightly. I'll see if we can see something on the left that's gotten these elephants so upset. Hukumori loves to come in here and hang out on the termite mounds nearby. There's a big male leopard that we find. It comes in from the side. Don't see any tracks though, but elephants have got such a keen smell, a residual smell that's left behind. They'll be able to pick up on. Tracy, no news, I'm afraid. Sorry, there's a tractor about to bomb our shot. I do apologize. I'm going to just reverse back so that we minimize that. It is a public road. I'm going to go in. Let's go back and see what's going on inside this block that's caused these elephants so much heartache. Very good. Well, we're going to send you all the way back over to the Meerkats in the west.
So we're just still waiting for more of those meerkats to pop up, and we're just giving them a little bit of space there. But while we're on that, we've got this magnificent old shepherd's tree, and you can see it, relative to my size. We're kind of like average, how big this tree is. And when we say this magnificent old tree, and that's what I want to chat to you very, very briefly about here, is aging trees is something that's very challenging. And if you, the oldest known tree in the world is actually in Sweden. It's a spruce in Sweden, and that's been dated at around 9,000 years. Then you get bristlecone pines in California, 5,500 years. These things are absolutely ancient, incredibly ancient trees. We don't know how old our trees are here, and it's a question that I'm frequently asked is, when you go past these trees, well, how old do you think these trees are? Well, the thing is, we really don't know. But where it becomes quite tricky is, you tend to look at a big tree and say, well, that must be really old. And you look at these smaller ones, and you say, well, okay, well, that one's, yes, it's obviously younger. But the interesting part there is, remember that this is an exponential growth rate. Now, we're excluding things like frost, fire, all that kind of stuff, but you assume that a lot of them get exposed to the same environmental conditions. But the growth rate on a small tree, a young tree, is a lot slower than on a big tree, just because it is exponential. It's got a much smaller root system, much smaller canopy, so it can't photosynthesize as much. So as it gets bigger, that growth can speed up. So we can often make the mistake of looking at a small tree and saying, as an example, you see this little camel thorn down here? Jandre is going to go onto it now. This scraggy little tree, there, that one, yeah. Now, we look at that and say, well, that can't be very old. For all we know, that tree, it's that little one there, that thing, and I'll stand next to it. This tree could be 50, 60 years old. I don't know. I'm thumb-sucking that. But the only way you're going to know this is actually doing aging on these trees. And to do that, here you can see this thing it's not big. Look there. But there's a lot of signs at the bottom how it's actually been broken off, animals breaking branches off, getting shade, rubbing on the bark. So it's obviously had a lot of wear and tear. You can't see it from where you are, but there's actually carbon signs over here. So it's probably had a fire through at some point. So it's gone through a lot. So to age that tree, we take a tiny little core sample. It just goes in, it's a tiny little extraction, and then they can do carbon dating on that. But it's just, when you're going around, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, I think just take a second look at these incredible plants around you. And I'm talking specifically about trees over here. And, they're not all what they may seem to be. You can get a very small tree. And some of these bristlecone pines, and, those of you who are from those areas would be far better placed than myself. I mean, I've never seen one, a live one. I've only seen photographs. But a lot of these things are not big plants. But they've just gone, the environmental conditions that they're surviving under are just so incredibly harsh that it takes the toll on the actual physical structure of the tree. So they can be very, very old, but they look very, very small. So we actually kind of in the throes of getting a project going now on trying to date trees like this one that we're seeing over here. And, there'll be no harm to the tree. There's no intention of cutting trees down to count the rings. This is pretty non-invasive research that'll be undertaken, but it'll be really nice to know, what are the ages of some of these trees over here. I see she's out there again. Megan just said trees are amazing, and I can't agree with you more. If you look at these things like General Sherman, these massive redwoods in the States. We've got ones in South Africa called Woodringtonia. It's a kind of a cedar that grows down in the mountains outside Cape Town there. Tiny little trees, but incredibly ancient. And then there's obviously the well-known baobab trees. Some of you may have heard of baobabs. They get massive. They've been dated at over 2,000 years old as well. So, trees are just phenomenal. Yeah, there's a second one that's popped up now. plants are just amazing. I mean, if you think about it, you know, and you read that question the other day about why mosquitoes are important, and looking at those links between insects and plants, you know, as pollinators and that kind of stuff. I mean, the different levels in ecology, all these complexities are just fascinating. So the alpha female is the one standing at the back of the picture there, and it looks like another little female is the one in front over there. So there should be 6 meerkats in total in this group. So we're just going to spend a little bit more time here waiting for the others to pop up, and it's really good habituation for them as well as for Genre and myself. It habituates us. We'll become tame at some point. But in the meantime, head over to Steve at Djuma and see what he's got going on elephant dung there.
It's a Coqui francolin, everybody. 2 of them. There's about 6, actually. Not a bird that many people get to see. That's the female. Whoopsie. There was about 6 or 7 of them here a moment ago, male and female. They're one of the smallest. I think they are the smallest francolin, in fact. I'll play the call for you. This is why they call the Coqui francolin. Are you ready? By saying the name. Isn't that original? Let's just head up here. Maybe we'll get another view of the male. They're all through here. There we go. There goes the male. It's very quick. There's another one at the back, scrapping through the elephant dung. So we've got 2. There we go. There's a male Coqui francolin, everybody. Looking for some seeds, insect larvae inside the elephant poo. Ah, cool. You see, the males have got that quite distinctively orange head. And the females have got a little bit more of some lines on the face. How do I explain? Almost like a chin strap with a line coming behind the eye. Very camouflaged if you don't see them. If you don't, oh, here comes a more mature male from the left. It seems. There we go. Look how much brighter his head is. Little covey. They will form groups of 6 to 8 in the non-breeding season, but they are monogamous when breeding happens, and the male often sits on top of a sort of a mound of some sorts and calls that loud Coqui, Coqui, Coqui sound. Just like that. If you take your eye off them for a second, they're gone. How well camouflaged. Walking on the ground saves an enormous amount of energy. It allows you to become a little bit bigger as well. And the bigger you are, the less nutrient requirement you have. You still require food, but the energy requirement of that food is decreased, which means you can feed on more bulk. Birds that fly all the time, very small, just like small rodents and squirrels and the like, they require high energy food because they're giving off so much heat all the time. But a bigger bird like a francolin flies only when needed to escape danger, but for the most part it walks around on the ground and it's quite big and fluffy, and it keeps itself nice and warm, and also a very good morsel for many of our predatory birds and small predatory cats. Okay, andBeyond Phinda is up and available as well. I'm not sure what they've got, but let's go back over to them.
We're still on our search for these lions, everyone, and we've come now into a slightly different area where one of our tracking team vehicles is out and they have found some fresh tracks of lions. What we've come across, though, on our descent down into the plains below us, though, is this beautiful marula tree. And have a look here at these red marks in the tree. where a big cat has stood up on its hind legs and dug its claws in and then scratched. And look at how far apart those claws are. It's the same width as my fingers just about. And this is from where a lion has stood up on its back legs and then embedded its claws into the bark. And they'll do this to help get rid of bits of dried or excess nail under their claws, just like your domestic cat at home would. To stretch the ligaments in their paws, and then some even think that there's glands in between the toes help them to scent mark. But look at how high up the tree some of these marks are, all the way up there, and this is, I mean, a good 6 feet off the ground. Just incredible. And this is not super fresh, just feeling in here, the bark feels like it's dried up quite a bit already, and the tree isn't oozing any sap or anything like that, so probably from a little while ago. But just while we're sitting here listening, I can hear some antelope alarm calling down in the valley. I think some impala alarm calling. And this is not far from where our tracking team had those lion tracks. So perhaps that's the lions. And because it's nice and cool still, like we said, it's pretty chilly. You see I'm wearing a big thick jacket. Because of those lower temperatures, these lions might still be active and might still take the opportunity to try and hunt. So let's head down there and see what we can find. While we go and see what those impala are alarm calling at, we'll send you to Tswalu Kalahari, where Dylan's got some meerkats for you.
Just noticed a couple of anti-eating chats. There's actually one sitting on this tree to my left over here. His genre is quite far. He's about 100 yards from me now. So, you know, if it's not a dead still image, don't stress. It's totally understandable. And while I was looking at that bird, they nest underground. And I'll actually show you a nest later if I can find a good example. There's this little burrow directly in front of where I'm walking now. There's another one that just landed there. So there's this little burrow right in front of where I am now. And they've been very, very active up and down at this burrow entrance. So I thought there might be a nest over here. But it's not. This is actually a spring air burrow. It's a little mammal that lives underground during the day, only comes out at night. Strictly nocturnal. In my entire career, I've only seen them out in daylight once, and that was 2 running. So I think maybe something had gone down a burrow. But these anteating chats have been around this burrow a lot. And we hopefully this afternoon, and it'll be a huge amount of luck involved. Most of what I do out here is just luck. And it's nice that everything out here, I hope, cooperates with me every now and again. But you'll often see these anteating chats following mammals or animals that dig. So that's going to be a clue as to what I'll try, genre, and I'll try get for you this afternoon, but no promises. But these anteating chats sitting around here, when these meerkats, and there you can see them sitting out there again to Genre's left, they're popping out there nicely now. When they go foraging and they're digging, this pair of anteating chats that we're looking at now, they almost certainly going to be tagging along with these meerkats. Obviously within whatever the radius, their territories. I have no idea what their territory size is. I mean, I can look that up. I'm talking about the anteating chats there. Because obviously they can't just follow the meerkats indefinitely, because then they'll be going to other anteating chat territories and that. So, but they'll definitely be so aware, the meerkats are pulled in here now, follow them around, and if the meerkats are foraging and they're digging up little things and stuff gets away, anteating chats can get in and get some food, because they're insectivorous. But I've seen them eating, I've even seen them eating frogs. We get frogs out here, can you believe it, eh? I mean, it's not, we've got a beautiful little one that called the breviceps, and in summer I'll hopefully show them to you. It's a rain frog. Our colleagues down in Phinda, they've actually got amazing rain frogs, and in the Lowveld. In fact, Phinda got a brand new species of rain frog, like as in new to science recently, and a button spider. That's pretty cool. For those of you who like spiders, I like spiders a lot. Ooh, it sounds like Tswalu has or hyena and cubs. So we're going to stay and head over that way.
Yay, everybody. I cannot express how happy I am. I am so happy. We're at the normal den, the usual den. These two little ones are spotty. Oh, they're getting so spotty. And super, super adventurous and playful. We've also got Ribbon at the bottom there and Sutu. How happy are you guys? I can't even say how happy I am. Oh, we've got a bit of a ceremonious greeting there. I am so glad I hear that you are all as happy as I am. This is amazing. They've gotten so much more spots. See the neck and the legs. Ribbon is relaxing in her usual style. These two look like they're becoming real rascals. Oh. Oh, it's just amazing to watch them. Oh, that's a proper takedown. I love Sutu's face watching them. It's just a bit of a frown. What are you guys up to? Michelle, you say that they're so awesome to watch and you're glad that they have each other to play with and learn from. That's exactly what they're doing. Play is not just this unnecessary or insignificant thing. It's so important. This is where they learn their takedowns, where they learn what works to pull an animal down when they need that skill as an adult. They're so comfortable with us now. They don't flinch at all when we move the vehicle. Ribbon is doing, I suppose, what a tired mum needs to do sometime, and that is just relax. There was an African grey hornbill in the back that was giving us a lovely call. Oh. It's interesting to watch. Sutu is one of June's youngsters. And Sutu has such a good relationship with these two, allowing them to play, bite, scratch, jump on top. Hi, Adrian. You'd like to know if hyenas also hunt? Most definitely. At least 50% of the time. In fact, some populations will even hunt 80% of the time. So this idea that they're scavengers is true, but that's not the entirety of the truth. Lions and leopards will also scavenge. And these guys definitely actively hunt as well. All these skills are important for when they need to hunt. The browner one, slightly lighter one, has its ears back a lot more. Now that is a sign of submission. So it'd be really interesting to watch what we can pick up and who's the dominant individual and who's the submissive one. Ooh, you know how lucky we are. We're going to be able to watch these animals grow up and learn so many things about them. We know them from birth. My second labs I can do that with. Just amazing. And remember that you all can do this too, and you can continue doing this as long as we can continue to bring you safaris. And for us to do that, we need your support. So please do follow the prompts that should be coming up on your page, so we can continue to watch these little guys, Tandi's little one, learn all about the animals that call Djuma and the other locations that we have now home. That is Ruben saying no, milk truck is closed. We have another individual down there. I have so many layers of clothes on, it's so difficult for me to turn and look at you. That's how Ruben calls them. Andrea, you say you can't help smiling seeing these darlings. Absolutely, Andrea. Absolutely. So this is Ntima, is the other individual that's just gotten up. So we've got Sutu, Ruben, and Ntima, and our two little cubs. Certainly putting a smile on my face. And all of yours as well. There's that iconic laugh that you associate with hyena, and that's usually what happens. It's not the way that they communicate with each other. They communicate with whooping, other intricate calls, but that laugh, that giggle that everyone assumes is the way the hyenas sound always, is actually the sound of a nervous animal, a subordinate animal. You can see that that's the sound Sutu made when it was chased by Ribbon. These are Ntima's little siblings, and she is quite warm to them. If you can hear that low tone that was just coming now, that was from Ntima, which is actually quite a nice thing to watch and to hear, because that's the type of sound a mum makes to their cubs. So maybe she is feeling quite close to her siblings. Yes, it is. Well, of course I'm going to be sitting here until the end of drive. In fact, I'll be in the afternoon at 2. But I'll send you over to andBeyond's Phinda. They've got some lions and one is on the move.
We have at last managed to catch up with this pride of lions after a full morning of searching. They've been out for the last 3.5 hours trying to find you some lions. And at last, those impalas that I mentioned earlier were alarm calling. This is what they were looking at. And this lioness has just stood up. And see how she's now starting to walk along the road, heading in the direction of some thicker bush. And when she stood up looking at her tummy, it looked like there was a bit of a fold of skin hanging off the bottom of her belly, which tells us that she hasn't got a full tummy that she could eat. And remember earlier we saw those giraffe, and we were discussing about how they might be heading down slope into some thicker bush to get out of this freezing cold wind. And this lioness will know that. She'll know that animals like impalas and nyalas especially will be going into the thicker areas to look for shelter from the wind. And that looks like it's exactly where she's heading. See how she stops often to scan and listen. She's looking up the hillside there. That's exactly where that herd of impala was a little bit earlier. And while she does that, the rest of her family is still passed out here on the left-hand side of the road. One other lioness and then 5 sub-adult male lions. Erica, you're saying that she's really stocky. Erica, she is incredibly muscular, and she has to be in order to bring her food down. And also just for that explosivity of exploding out of the grass and then pouncing on her prey, having to wrestle things like zebra and wildebeest to the ground. So having a look at the pile of lions in front of us, it looks like her sister has just stood up. And have a look at her now also walking towards the first lioness. Look at how intense she's looking. Erica, look at those muscles down the side of her body. Her big shoulders, and then her, in a human where her lats would be. There's that very prominent line that runs from kind of her elbow up to her back. And look at how she's walking with her head low. And then melting into that golden grass. Now, I think both of these lionesses know that there's something up there. I wonder if it's the impala that they're looking at. And it looks like an ambush is about to be set. Satya, aged 7, you're asking what do lions eat? Satya, they eat meat. And they'll eat just about any form of meat, Satya, but they prefer animals from about 50 kilograms in weight to about 300 kilograms in weight. So something as small as an impala and as big as maybe a zebra or a wildebeest. That's what they prefer to eat in most places. But Satya, it depends on where in Africa they live. They will eat whatever the most abundant prey species is. So here, where this pride of lions lives, in their territory, the most common prey for them are warthogs and nyalas and zebras and wildebeest. And those are the animals that they tend to eat most often. But in other places, like in some places in Namibia and in some places in Zambia and southern Tanzania, the most common prey for lions is often giraffes. And there they specialize in killing giraffes, and giraffes are much bigger than 300 kilograms, of course. Satya, there's even a pride of lions in the north of a country called Botswana, where the lions at certain times of year, because of how big the prides are and because of how dry it gets there, lots of the plant-eating animals start to get very skinny and very weak. And even animals like elephants will get very weak. And the lions there, because there's so many of them in a big pride, they've been known to catch elephants there. There's many places in Africa where lions will prefer to hunt buffalo because that's the most prevalent prey species. And again, those lions will be specially adapted. They'll have special techniques for hunting those buffalo. We're going to keep a close eye on these lions and see what they get up to. If they do start to hunt, we'll bring you quickly back. But in the meantime, Steve has found an animal that these lions would potentially love to eat.
Indeed, we found a herd of buffalo, everybody, coming down to drink. Just going to keep quiet for a moment, allow you to soak in this glorious scene. I hope you all enjoyed that. It's wonderful to spend time with the buffaloes. There's buffalo pool party, says Butterfly. Now bear in mind, each of them coming in with their hooves gets mud attached to their hooves or their body, and slowly but surely that mud gets removed. And over time, it is a small watering hole gets bigger and bigger. Bigger and bigger. A term called erosion. Erosion is the movement of soil, of sediment from one place to another. That can be by wind, water, or by an animal's body. And we see what is small little mud wallows created by elephants who do some digging And that fills with water. Animals like warthog and buffalo, rhino, elephant will use them again, and they get bigger and bigger eventually. Natural seasonal pans occur, which are quite large in circumference. And you'll see how this herd, after drinking, pretty quick drinking, and then off they go into a very specific direction, being led by the leading females. Anna-Marie, this is a decent size herd. This is pretty average. This is what you find around. There was a herd the other day. Oh, BK, there's the Hammerkop right in the middle. The herd we saw the other day at Buffelshoek, I think, was comprised of 2 herds. It was enormous. It was such a big herd. Little Hammerkop is looking for anything that's been disturbed by the buffalo that came through. Any frogs that maybe got stood on, or any insects that got stood on. So very opportunistic. This bird was sitting in front of us just before. It's related to the heron family. And now where the buffalo have walked, have a look how he's looking for anything that's been churned up in the mud. A process of symbiosis. Now, the buffalo don't benefit, but the Hammerkop will benefit by the activities of the buffalo. Call that commensalism. Another relationship we saw before, the oxpeckers, the buffalo benefit from ticks being removed, and the oxpeckers get a meal. We call that mutualism. Does he know Hammerkops are part of the heron family? Herons. They can fly. They often, identified by many of our nesting birds as raptors. They do often look like a raptor when they fly. They do look like a raptor when they're flying, but they're often found standing right here next to water bodies. There we go. Found something in the crack. Water bodies often standing right next to the water, looking at their own reflection. They build enormous nests, and it's regarded as very, very bad luck by the locals, the Shangans within the area, to damage or remove any material from that nest. Very, very bad luck. Anything squashed? The buffalo disturbance as they come through churns everything up, disturbs the water. You see how deep many of them had to go in to drink. If they want to drink cleaner water, they have to come into chest height, otherwise they're just going to be drinking mud. They've probably had a bout of eating already this morning, and they're going to slowly move off, eat a bit more, and then probably lie down and ruminate for a decent part of the morning. They've probably been waiting for things to warm up slightly before getting their feet wet. Hello, Nushka. This year we've definitely had a lot more rain. Vegetation's looking really, really good. Lots of vegetation on the trees. There's still lots of grass available. But in saying that, in February, March, when I left, the grass was unbelievably tall. There was so much of it, you could lose a herd of elephants in the grass. And now, the buffalo have done their work. They've been eating and eating and eating. They've reduced it quite a lot, so there's still a fair bit of grass around. But the buffalo don't normally use the same route. They try and sort of spiral out like a flower rotation to and from water, and they move in search of the juiciest and best available grass, having trampled and eaten and defecated on the previous area they've been in. Very good ecologically for the system. They're not an animal that's known to overutilize, but when we have droughts, buffalo do very badly because they require good, juicy, long grass. And if we don't have enough rainfall, that grass is in very low abundance, which makes them quite weak. susceptible to disease and predation. The buffalo looking in fine condition this year, although a little bit thirsty. Okay, well, we're going to be staying here with the buffalo herd for a little while longer and send you over to Tswalu Kalahari, who are still with their meerkats.
So we had a big drop in the wind. The wind has been blowing the whole of this morning, and the weather forecast, I just want to put it out there, got it completely wrong. They said it would be calm, gusting up to 5 kilometers an hour. Well, it's been blowing consistently more than that the whole morning. But about 20 minutes ago, the wind dropped off almost completely. There was hardly a breath of wind, getting nice and warm, and it's just started picking up again. And there's what is that bird to the left of them there, Chandra? Have a look there. Is that a Kalahari scrub robin? What do you think? Chandra is saying yes, it is, because he's keeping a good bird list now, so he's doing really well. So that little bird, that Kalahari scrub robin, it'll also capitalize on animals that dig. So these meerkats, I mean, it'll go for obviously things when meerkats aren't around. But if these meerkats start foraging, that's another bird that'll be tagging along with them as well. That's one of the best birds. I was listening to the other guides on their chat earlier, and they were listening to alarm calls and that kind of stuff. This little bird is one of the best ones out, certainly in our region of the Kalahari, for giving alarm calls. It makes this like high-pitched when there's predators around. It could be a mongoose or a leopard or a caracal or something. So that's always a nice little one to keep an eye on. Yeah, so with this breeze that's been picking up now, these meerkats are going to probably be sticking at the burrow a little bit longer than they would normally. And that is still that your genre is looking at the one on the far right. That looks like the male. So Kelly has just asked a question. I love these kind of questions. I really genuinely love them. The question is, do mole rats and meerkats ever fight? You know, if they're underground, I mean, are they competing for space underground? And I like that kind of question because it opens up a whole aspect of the ecology of these underground animals. What are they doing underground? How are they interacting? You know, what is space utilization underground? And I would guess there's probably very little, if any, interaction between mole rats and meerkats underground. Meerkats have got very, very defined set burrow systems. They're quite large tunnels. They're at one spot, and then the rest of the time in the day they're above ground feeding. So they go down the burrows, have their pups, or they sleep down there, that's it. Whereas the mole rats, these tunnel systems actually they're really designed around food resources underground, because they're not coming out above ground at all, unless it's young males and sometimes females dispersing. Chandra and I are just getting nervous. Like we took one look at the meerkats of gaps. So anyway, we'll see where they've gone to. We'll track them down now. But in terms of utilizing space underground, I think there'd be very, very little, if any, interaction between meerkats and mole rats underground. I think these meerkats, they've just moved around the corner. I don't think they've actually gone off foraging yet. They're just standing around the corner, I would guess. But we'll have a look now. We're just going to see where they've gone to. They might actually have just gone down this other burrow here while we were chatting. Yeah, that's also, don't take your eye off the ball, Smith. But anyway, we'll find them. But in the meantime, I think head back down to our colleagues, and one of them has a good pride of lions that you can look at.
We're still sitting with these two lionesses, and one of the young males just came to greet his mother, And he's been quite busy walking around sniffing some of the bushes. I wonder if perhaps the dominant male lions in this area haven't been through here scent marking, and this youngster's just sniffing where his father and uncle have been. This lioness, have a look at her now. See how she's still awake and alert and vigilant. And she's still scanning all around, keeping a lookout for any signs of potential prey. The rest of the lions have all kind of put their heads down and gone to sleep. I was just saying to Marcel now, when that young male walked right past us, his hairs were all standing on end. I'm sure you've all had the experience when if you get out of a cold shower or out of a hot shower into a cold room and all your hairs stand on end, you get like goosebumps. That's exactly what this little male lion had now. Oh, look at how beautiful that is. Two lions looking in different directions. The one closer to us in that almost sphinx-like position looking forward, and her sister looking over her back. And that beautiful dry grey grass. Oh, here comes the young male, back from his little exploratory mission. Look at how close they're all lying together. Like I said, it is quite chilly. So all lying on top of each other, helping to keep each other warm. And we noticed on this youngster that his face looks like he's lost a bit of hair around his eyes and around his nose and even onto his neck and onto parts of his back. And starting to show, or the skin underneath his hair starting to show through. So a telltale sign that he may be developing a little bit of mange, which is not to be, at this time of year, coming into the dry season, and in fact, just now, looking around me, this area where we're in now, of rolling open grasslands, in summertime, it's very lush and very green, and it supports large herds of zebra and wildebeest. And now with the coming of the dry season, most of those herds have moved out, gone in search of grazing elsewhere. And so because this is the lion's territory, they can't really go anywhere else. And so that sudden lack of prey might make it harder for them to get enough food and get enough nutrition to stay in good condition. And I wonder if that cub is not maybe starting to feel that. Maybe he hasn't had enough, or hasn't been eating as well as he normally has been, and that's allowing that little bit of mange to manifest itself. It doesn't look severe, and I'm sure after some good meals he'll be right as rain. Everyone's saying that these lionesses look in pretty good condition. I definitely agree with you. Their coats very glossy and very clean, not too many scars. Except, now that lioness stands up, look at her back. She's also got some pock marks on her back. Maybe also starting to feel the effects of the dry season coming. Yeah, we were hoping that these lionesses would start to move towards the herd of impala that's off to our right, but it appears they haven't. So we'll leave you then and send you across to some hyenas with Trishala at Djuma.
Ruben has plugged her little ones into the den. You can hear them. That sweet squittering sound. This has just been a pleasure. Pleasure to see them and know that everyone is fine. Our cubs have grown, adventurous and noisy. Just awesome. Absolutely amazing. Well, they look like they've gotten a good meal, and Tima is nice and full. She's even got some blood spots on her. Yes, everybody is happy and healthy, and certainly we are too. Well, we have had a fantastic drive. Little paw poked out. I think the little cub was waving a goodbye to you all because it is that time. So thank you for your questions and your comments, everyone. It's been a pleasure. We'll see you this afternoon for Sunset Safari. Goodbye for now.